Billionaire asks Waitress for financial advice as a joke, but her first words leave him speechless. The cafe was bustling on a rainy Tuesday morning, the kind of day that made people cling to warm drinks and small comforts. At a corner table sat Alexander Cant, billionaire entrepreneur, accustomed to boardrooms, red carpets, and headlines. But today he was just a man in a rumpled suit, nursing a cappuccino, bored and seeking a little amusement. Across the room, Lily James moved between tables with effortless grace, her auburn hair tied in a loose bun, apron dusted with flour, a faint smear of coffee on her sleeve. She smiled at every customer, her warmth somehow cutting through the gray drizzle outside. Alexander, never one to resist a bit of mischief, called her over. "Excuse me," he said, voice casual. "I need some financial advice." Lily tilted her head, smiling politely. "Of course, sir. What's the question?" He leaned back, smirking. "If you were me, a billionaire, how would you invest $100 million? His tone was teasing, the kind meant to see if someone could flounder under pressure. Lily's eyes, bright and steady, met his. "I'd invest it in people," she said simply. "Not stocks or bonds. People who need a chance, a start, or someone to believe in them." Alexander laughed lightly. "That's poetic. But practical?" Her smile widened. "I think kindness is always practical. It pays dividends nobody can measure." Something about the sincerity in her voice made Alexander pause. No stock ticker, no market trend could deliver the clarity he felt in that moment. "People, huh?" he said softly. "Yes," she nodded. "A mentor for a young entrepreneur without connections. A scholarship for a child who dreams of college. A home for a family struggling to make rent. You can't lose when you give someone a start." The cafe fell away as Alexander considered her words. He was used to commanding numbers, but Lily's words were like a mirror, reflecting a part of himself he'd long ignored. He felt a sudden, unaccustomed tug of humility. "Do you really believe that works?" he asked, almost whispering. "I do," she said. "And sometimes a little faith is all someone needs to change everything." Something in him shifted. That evening, Alexander walked past his usual penthouse dinner reservations. Instead, he made a call to a local community center, directing funds to programs for struggling youth and small business owners. Each step felt strangely liberating. Weeks later, Lily returned to her table, and Alexander, now a quiet regular, raised his cup to her. "You were right," he said. "Helping people. It's changed me more than I thought possible." She smiled knowingly. "It always does. That's the real investment, isn't it?" Alexander Cant, billionaire, had discovered a truth that no market could teach. Wealth isn't about how much you have. It's about the lives you touch. And sometimes, a waitress with a kind word and fearless heart can teach the richest person the most valuable lesson of all. The cafe's bell jingled as the rain began to ease outside. Alexander left that day with a lighter step, a new purpose, and a heart full of possibilities. And somewhere between the steam of cappuccinos and the hum of conversation, humanity quietly reminded him that the best returns are measured not in dollars, but in lives uplifted. Over the next few weeks, Alexander couldn't stop thinking about Lily's words. He began visiting community centers, attending mentorship meetings, and personally funding programs for struggling families. The boardrooms and luxury cars suddenly felt hollow compared to the spark he saw in the eyes of people whose lives were changing. One afternoon, he returned to the cafe, not to flaunt his wealth but simply to see Lily again. She greeted him like any other customer, cheerful and unassuming. "Back so soon?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "I had to see you," Alexander admitted, a little embarrassed. "You inspired me." Lily's smile was warm but modest. "I didn't do anything special. I just spoke the truth." "No," he insisted. "You did something remarkable. You reminded me what it means to be human." Just then, a young boy at a nearby table knocked over his juice, tears welling up. Without thinking, Alexander knelt beside him, helping him clean up, just as Lily often did for customers. Lily watched quietly, her eyes shining. "See," she said softly, "kindness is contagious." Alexander laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. "I think I understand now. It's not about money or status or power. It's about impact. Every life touched is a return that matters. From that day forward, he started a foundation in Lily's name, focused on supporting education, small businesses, and community programs. He invited her to help select the projects, giving her a voice that mattered far beyond the cafe walls. One evening, months later, Alexander returned to the cafe to find Lily closing up. He handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Consider it a seed for your dreams," he said. "You've changed mine. Now it's time to help you change the world too." Tears brimmed in Lily's eyes as she opened it. Inside were funds to start her own community cafe, one that could double as a safe space for mentorship, learning, and hope. Alexander realized then that the joke he had played, asking a waitress for financial advice, was no longer a joke. It had been the beginning of a chain reaction, one act of sincerity sparking countless others. As he left the cafe that night, he looked back at Lily, confident that her words would ripple far beyond the walls of the little corner cafe. And in that moment, he understood that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in lives uplifted, in hope restored, and in hearts inspired to give back.